Yeah, I mean, we have absolutely no teaching in this at all as kids, how to talk to each other about the things that are important. It's, wow. You would think somewhere in school that would be addressed, but I don't know.
I wonder about that too, because it seems like the only solutions that are offered in popular culture are like, oh, you're not getting your needs met, you got to break up, or, just stand by your man, kind of thing.
Just keep nagging.
Just keep going. I don't know how you're going to do it, but just stay true.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 273. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a conversation with Libby and Cal. And you're in for a treat with this one because they're musicians, and we get to hear some of their music at the end of this episode. Spoiler.
Yeah, their new album came out in the end of October. It is called If You've Given Up on Love, Let's Call It Something Else. And the song they sent us to share is called Free Agents. And as they said, this is the song that is most gratuitously about non-monogamy. Even though the other ones have themes, this one is a little more obvious than the others. And so we're super excited about that. So a huge thank you to both of them for sending it over.
Yes, this is a wonderful conversation. Libby has been non-monogamous most of her adult life, pretty much all of her adult life. And Cal has been interested in it, like feeling like he has.
I think he's been non-monogamous the whole time. He just didn't have any words for it.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to.
I knew you were.
Good description. But we love this conversation and are excited for all of you to listen.
Yeah, we talk about many different things with them, but one of them that's really interesting is that they've had sort of a musical partnership for the last 5 years and then they added on an element of a relationship
mm-hmm.
and
romantic
partnership, about 3 years ago. And so we talk about that transition. We talk about
and how they balance both of them.
Balancing, I was going to say time management, as Libby will say later in the episode. Her life is 3 partners, 3 children, 4 chickens, and a cat. And so we talk about time management. We talk about navigating non-monogamy as a very shy person. And
so much more.
One fun fact about these two. He has a flip phone.
Oh, yeah.
And she doesn't have any cell phone at all.
Yeah.
And so you think you need technology to make it work? You don't.
Nope.
You don't even need your Google Calendar. A paper calendar will do.
Yes.
So it's back to basics here. These two are amazing, and this is a wonderful conversation. So again, a huge thank you to both of them.
We're going to jump into the interview now for anyone who's a premium subscriber. And for anyone else, you're going to get a couple of announcements from us first.
Correct. Very authoritative. I believe you. What's the first announcement?
So the first announcement is, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front and jump right into the interview. But don't worry, you still get important dates and community announcements in the outro.
And musical songs.
For this one, yeah.
Most songs are musical.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. I'm going to get in trouble for that. Forget I said that, people.
Anyway, to sign up for the premium subscription, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Scroll down a little bit on the homepage and you'll find the button there.
The next thing we've got going on is that Emma and I will be in person, live in the flesh, April 14th to 16th in Tucson, Arizona, with the crew at Southwest Love Fest. We are doing a workshop, an interactive workshop, and we're super excited about that.
We are. And if you sign up and join us, which we highly recommend you do because it's an amazing event that we're really excited about, you can use the code Emma and get a discount.
You save 10% and you help support us financially, which is amazing, and you help support Southwest Love Fest, which is even amazinger.
And you get to attend the conference.
And you get to see us.
And you get to see us and lots of other amazing people.
Yeah. There's a couple of other amazing humans that we know for sure are going to be there. Libby Sinbach, not to be confused with this Libby, and Jessica Fern are also presenting there.
Among lots of other
Among many
people.
others. Those are just the two I happen to know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'll learn more for next week. Every week from now on, we'll talk about new people.
Links to sign up there are in the show notes.
And after that, not after that, but the next announcement, we have a virtual meet and greet on February 22nd. We've been doing these for years. They're amazing. It's an amazing way to meet humans and have a great time. They last about 2 hours. We ask questions. We scramble Zoom rooms. We give you an opportunity to get to know your fellow non-monogamists and even sometimes some monogamists.
Yeah, that's true.
The only requirement to join these is that you are an amazing, awesome human and that you want
open-minded
and you want to have fun.
Yes.
So you can sign up for that at our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the events tab and you'll find the information there. Also, those Southwest Love Fest links, you'll find those in the show notes.
I said that.
Did you?
Yes.
Which is under the podcast tab?
I didn't say that piece.
I didn't think so.
Just click around a little bit. You'll find stuff.
Yeah, just go to every webpage and you'll find it.
Also, you'll see the community tab on our website. If you're out there looking for like-minded friends, we would love for you to check out the community. It's a great way to meet incredible people and have support, new friendships, fun, and just a really great way to connect with amazing humans. We just actually had an in-person community event this last weekend, and it was incredible. We had 40 to 45 people, I'd say, show up in person and hang out for the weekend, and it just was like, it was so amazing. I can't even describe it.
Yeah, we had people from, let's just run through it really quick. Shanghai, China.
Yes.
Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts, Kansas, Tennessee, and New Mexico.
Kentucky.
And Kentucky all fly in, and people from all over California coming out for it. It was amazing. We had so much fun. So first of all, thank you to anybody here who's listening that was part of that. And for all of you who didn't get to be a part of it, well, we're going to keep doing these. We're probably going to do 2 of them a year. Some of them here in the Bay Area, and hopefully the rest will spread them out around the country. So if those are also sound interesting to you, we would love to have you join us. It's just a couple bucks a month. Less than a frappuccino latte mocha.
You just
No,
stop.
No, stop.
And in the meantime,
Pumpkin spice. Our community is pumpkin spiced.
Okay. Oh boy.
Threw you off?
Yes, it threw me off. While the in-person part of the community is incredible, as we experienced this last weekend, the virtual part is also amazing. We have a lot of ongoing chat groups and different forums you can partake in. We have a monthly Q&A and monthly men's group and women's groups calls as well. So get in there, check it out, and we would love for you to find your community there.
Find our community there.
Our community and your community.
It'll be everyone's community pretty soon. So anyway, again, check it out. The community tab on our website is where you'll find all of that information. We'd love to have you check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email or send us a voicemail. You can find that information on the Contact Us page of our website. We would love to hear from you about anything, community related or not.
Yes.
And the last one we wanted to tell you really quick is our favorite way to get tested for STIs, and we believe it will be yours the first time you try it.
STDcheck.com.
STDcheck.com, in case you weren't listening. It is fast. It is easy. It is affordable. It's $129 for a 10-panel test. And again, this is a service. This is a service that Emma and I use and we love, and we've been using it for years. So check it out. All of the people who use it every month can't be wrong. We would greatly appreciate it because the links on our website save you $10 and they score us a little bit of kickback, which helps support us so we can keep bringing you this amazing podcast.
Yeah.
And amazing conversations with people like Libby and Cal.
So I think we should go talk to them now.
Should we?
Yes.
Let's do it. Welcome to the podcast, Libby and Cal. We're excited to talk to you today. It is a Monday morning and glorious out there. So welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
We're happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
It is a glorious day.
It's absolutely beautiful. Cold, but beautiful.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Well, do you mind introducing yourselves at whatever level you're comfortable? And that way we know a little bit about the two of you, because we actually don't know anything about you two. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no problem. We are Libby and Cal. I'm Libby. He's Cal. We are musicians in Ottawa, Canada. That's why it's so cold. I don't know. What do you want to say?
I'm originally a transplant from Scotland, so that kind of explains my accent. It's somewhere mid-Atlantic. I'm edging almost towards Iceland now, I guess. So if you can't understand me, I'm sorry. It's my accent. So.
It's charming.
Well, it does make, it is.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense. We thought you were just practicing for
yes,
a role or something. So.
I'm acting. I'm doing Irish today.
I love it. Well, what is the relationship between the two of you sort of as it stands today? And then we're going to go back in time and figure out how we got here.
Well, I'm going to add a quick question. It's like, how long have you two been together?
I guess as musicians, what has it been, like 5 years? About that?
Yep.
And then on a personal level, 3-ish?
Yep.
Awesome. And what does that look like for you two, just on like a day-to-day basis or sort of just high level?
Gosh, that's a hard one to answer because the dynamic it's easier to talk about it in a historical dynamic because of COVID restrictions and all those sorts of things. But and it's also hard to separate the music and the relationship. Often we get together and it's music based. So we get together, we need to practice, we've got shows coming up, this and that and the other, but it's still quality time.
Of course.
So, and then kind of sometimes we can manage to kind of sneak in some personal time in there too. So that's sort of the dynamic. It's a mix of, well, what are we going to do today? Oh, well, you brought your instrument. Let's practice.
Yeah. We do kind of separate it out a little bit. You know, we've got our musical side and then the personal side. And we don't live together. It's actually about a 1-hour commute between our houses. So that complicates things a little bit also.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we happen to know that non-monogamy plays a role in your lives. And we also know, because of the secret magic of podcasting, that your story sort of developed individually. So maybe let's start with, I guess, Libby, your side. How did non-monogamy come into your life and when and what did that look like?
Yeah, so a long time ago, my first boyfriend lent me his copy of The Ethical Slut, and I had a look at it, and my first impression was, oh my God, no way. I'm not doing that. And I gave him back the book. And a couple of years later, we were still together, and I brought it up again and said, hey, about that book, I might be interested in trying this. So I've never actually been in a monogamous relationship in my whole life.
Wow.
So kind of what was that change for you?
We were quite young. So we got together in high school and then moved out together. And then I was suddenly in university and there were so many people around. I was getting a little excited. You know, just like the whole world seemed to be opening up to me. And I thought, well, I don't really want it to pass me by.
Yeah. So he brought you The Ethical Slut like in high school?
Yeah.
It was like, wow.
I was like 17.
Wow.
I was going to say, like, well, what was it that like turned you off from it? But I mean, I guess it's still a valid question. Just because you were 17 doesn't mean it couldn't ring true for you, right?
However, you're also 17 and it's hard to know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I was a lot more insecure at that time, like a lot of teenagers are. And I figured, I'm such a weirdo. I found one guy in the world who likes me. I don't think I'm ever going to find anybody else in the world who likes me. You know, I better hang on to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the prospect of opening that up or let's invite some trouble into this dynamic, right?
Basically.
And let's invite some risk. Yeah, for sure. I can see that. And so you get into college though, and you're like, maybe we want to see what else is out there. How did that transition go?
I mean, of course it was rocky. I was young and foolish and, but it wasn't that hard because it was kind of his idea in the first place. And then I brought it up. So it wasn't coming out of nowhere. It wasn't out of left field. It was like, maybe now is a better time to try this. And, it didn't take him very long to go out and find his own partners either. So it kind of happened at the same time, which makes it easier.
Yeah. And what did it look like in terms of a structure, like how you two approached it and what sort of that growth was for you during that time?
We were living together. I can't even remember I think we found partners on OkCupid. Yeah. Sorry, I don't really know how to say it. Yeah.
No, so it was something that sounds like you sort of explored individually. You weren't going out together to clubs or finding couples to date together. It sounds like it was more of a solo journey for yourself.
That's correct. Yeah. We never shared partners or anything.
Yeah. And that was the like point of no return. It sounds like you haven't gone back to monogamy since that point.
Maybe for periods of my life, but like I said, I've never had a fully monogamous relationship. So with one of my current partners, I would say we were effectively monogamous for a year or two, something like that, but not as a way of being.
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just sometimes relationships go in and out of being monogamous, non-monogamous. Like it ebbs and flows as life happens, and as you sometimes there's nurturing for that relationship that like you're focused on too, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of the way it works sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're single, it doesn't mean you're going to be single forever. It's not your identity, right? It's just
Sure. Yeah. How about on your end, Cal? What did the precipice, the journey? Where did the journey start for you? And then we'll kind of maybe bring the two together and talk a little bit about just sort of why non-monogamy works for both of you. So yeah, we'd love to hear your side of it, Cal.
For me, it was it's odd because it's even further back than Libby, and an experience that we currently have a song about. But I remember as a pre-teen that there was the girl next door and her friend, and we ended up, kissing in the shadow of the garage, for hours on end, perfectly innocently, if you like, but it felt entirely normal to me and to them, and that experience was sort of then superseded by a classical Scottish Presbyterian idea of monogamy and relationships are sacrosanct and all this, and so that sort of swallowed that feeling of being absolutely correct that had been occurred at the time. So there was a long period where I was trying to fit myself into this box of monogamy, but it never felt comfortable to me to be requiring one person to be everything to me. And so I would go out with people, but music, of course, was a big passion. So sometimes I would go out with musicians, and sometimes I wouldn't. And and I'd always be missing some part of what was important to me in my life in the relationship, but not feeling that I could go outside of that because, well, that's wrong. I had no reference material. I had no idea of that non-monogamy was even a thing, and let alone the word polyamory just didn't exist in my sphere. So I think I've struggled with that a lot through my life because I've never felt that I should be, requiring that everything from one person. And then about 10 years or so ago, I was dating a girl and had a very this is after a kind of a marriage breakup with an affair, which of course was most people's way of expressing or kind of the fact of discontent or needing other other ways of kind of stimulation. And so I was dating the girl that I had the affair with, and somebody else introduced me to the idea of polyamory. And this person I was very interested in a particular sphere, and everything seemed to the light seemed to go on. It's like, there's this thing, it actually exists, that you can have different relationships with different people, and they all mean something. And it was a real just light bulb, and everything just seemed to click. Like, yes, this makes so much sense, and all my life I've wanted to know this, but I have only learned it now in my my 50s. So so it was that was sort of where I came to it.
Yeah. So like prior to that, it sounds like you had that little bit of an introduction, maybe in experience when you were a little, like a preteen.
Yes.
And then never really felt like you fit. Like you were trying to, it sounds like you were trying to mold into society and what it tells you to do and everything. But like, this doesn't really work. This doesn't really work. And then led you to it took till 10 years ago to figure that out. And
and it's I hadn't even thought about that experience, until a few years ago when it's like, it's not that caused my kind of desire for non-monogamy, but it's the feeling of this feels just right. That was the experience, and coming back to that, as an adult, it's like, all this just does make sense to me. So,
I'm curious, like at whatever level you're comfortable talking about the detail, like to go from it sounds like an infidelity. You were dating this woman that you had the affair with, and then somebody else came to you and said, well, how about this other way? And so now you're taking polyamory to somebody that you had an affair with, and you're interested in this other person. How did all of that,
and ending another relationship,
right? Like it sounds like your light bulb went on, but like, what did everybody else's light bulb?
Very good question. Very good question. Well, the person I was dating, we did explore the idea, just in terms of talking about it, and initially they were interested in the idea, but ultimately they decided that they weren't able to cope with that, and we hadn't progressed any further. So that relationship lasted another couple of years on and off, and meanwhile the person that I had been introduced to the topic to, we were very much sort of staying away from the temptations of it. We were still, very, very kind of friendly and very close. We actually played music together as well. But we restrained from all kind of temptations, until the original relationship kind of did break up. And after that, we felt free to pursue what we wanted to do. So
that partner was much more interested in non-monogamy, in polyamory.
Yeah.
And so you sort of waited the other one out. And so now you're at a jumping point then. How do you two move forward with that? Because that's a whole new world for you. It's obviously, it feels right, but it's still the navigating of it. There's the logistics of actually doing it. How did that go?
There was a lot of other stuff happening at the same time, which actually helped me, because I was very happy to have a relationship, with that person, because it's really nice to have a relationship with somebody. But at the same time, I was looking after my mother, who was in the last stages of cancer, and that was sort of taking all my emotional capital, kind of just being involved in that. So it was very much, I was so thankful to have this refuge, with somebody who also had their own relationship and kind of other relationships. But this person was a refuge for me that I could, and it was probably fortuitous in a way, because there was no way I could give all my energy to a relationship with everything else going on in my life. So it sort of grew almost kind of naturally as my mother passed away and I had more time, and then the relationship kind of blossomed, and it grew very organically and quite lovely. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then shortly, about a year later, we introduced another partner into the polycule, and that seemed to kind of grow dynamically also. So it was a kind of very natural fit.
Yeah.
So,
And how did you get to then where you're at now from there?
it seems a remarkably easy journey. I can't.
You're still with those partners.
I'm still with those partners. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's an exploration. I mean, we have to work at it. There's a lot of communication, which is, I mean, all my life I've been able to talk very easily, but not necessarily talk about like stuff, feelings. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
emotions and all this kind of stuff. We don't talk about that in Scotland. It's too much rain. So that's been a big journey, is, like having, our kind of radars and like regular check-ins and stuff. And it's a work in progress for sure. I mean, everybody has their own needs and insecurities that have to be kind of assuaged and helped. But I remember listening to a radio show, and the person on it said, it's absolutely amazing that the person who you are closest to in your life, very often you can't talk to them about the most basic things. And the example they gave was, imagine telling your partner that you're attracted to somebody else. For most people, that conversation just could not happen. Mm-hmm. And it was quite a remarkable thing for me to hear, and it's still very, very true. But for polyamorous people, that's completely, it's almost that can be a fun thing. That can be a thing that kind of cements you together more. So, I mean, the whole way of looking at the world, music, for example, I mean, listening to lyrics of music or looking at films, and you think, no, don't do that. So the whole way of looking at what people think of as severe problems, sometimes you think, no, there's some so easy solutions to this if you just, embrace a completely different way of looking at things. So,
yeah.
So from that point of view, it really has changed how I kind of see a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, but
For sure.
it's a path. I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a path, right? A journey.
Mm-hmm.
The bulletproof premise of most reality TV falls apart.
Yes.
Once you introduce non-monogamy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think every Beatles song until 1967. Yeah, so.
I love it.
That's exactly it. That's why I'm trying to write things that are not that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. And definitely going to talk about your music because we're so excited about it. No, I'm excited for it.
I can't wait to hear more.
But I wanted to touch on a few things you said in there, Cal. One was you mentioned radars, and I just want to, for anybody who's like, what the hell's a radars? Radar is, if you go to Multi-Amory, they're another podcast, and they have a format called Radar for doing relationship check-ins, and we'll put links in the show notes for anybody who's like, oh, I could probably use that. You probably could. So that's a great resource. So thanks for mentioning it. And there was one piece that you kind of touched on that I wanted to maybe give a little more airtime to, which is my interpretation was you were going through the process with your mother and just didn't have the capacity really to be everything to somebody else. And not that any of us ever has the capacity to be everything to somebody else, but I think we feel that pressure to be. And it sounds like polyamory at that moment gave you the calm to say, I don't have to be everything for this person while I'm trying to go through this incredibly difficult time in my life. And it gave you the space to not say, well, hey, partner, I can't be everything, so we just have to break up. Instead, you got to let that relationship be what it was. And then when you had the time, you grew it into something different. and you're still together today.
Yeah.
And I think that thread is really a beautiful one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, it's very true. And I think it also underscores the fact that, people who are important to you in your life, I mean, it may not be a sexual thing at all. I mean, you can have a partner who is into a particular thing that, the dynamic between you is every bit as strong as a romantic partner. But they are also, very, very, very important to you. In a kind of, so, but yes, what you said is absolutely true. I definitely didn't have the resources to devote to somebody, and luckily the person, is very adept at recognizing that, they were offering support and understanding that I couldn't give them everything that they, would desire in a perfect world. But we're
or maybe that you even wanted to at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, to somebody who hasn't gone through it, it's a very difficult process. And to anybody who has, you have my sympathies. But yes, very, very much so. It was a big drain, and the fact that there was another way than just saying, sorry, I can't do this right now. And instead saying, I'd love to do more, hang in there, and we'll get there. So it's lovely.
Well, part of that is trusting the process too, trusting like both of you, like that this is something in life that we're going through. It's only temporary. However, sometimes when you get insecure, it's hard to trust that.
Well, especially if in monogamy, I found that if something is wavering, like if you're having a hard time at work, or the kind of just you're having a hard mental kind of phase, the other person can take it personally, and if you don't have a language to be able to talk about it, or even the vocabulary to address it, that's very, very hard. And I think one of the things about polyamory, and it's not exclusive to polyamory, but one of the things that polyamory does is almost require you to talk about things that are hard. And I think that is been a saver for me, even though I'm dragged to it, clawing at the blackboard. But the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and not to put words into your partner's mouth, but I would guess that they probably felt some element of, I'm giving a lot of support to Cal at the moment, and I'm getting my cup filled somewhere else. And that allowed them to be able to play that role, rather than them just giving everything to you, not getting that back from you, building a shit ton of resentment, and then them blowing up at you, whatever, in the middle of you going through this thing, and then they feel like shit and you feel like shit, but they were able to go and get some of the needs met that you were not able to meet at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And it allowed them to support you in a way that they maybe wouldn't have been. So the whole system fuels itself in some ways.
Yeah, it is self-sustaining. And I think that, that we all go through phases of times when we're not able to kind of generally give everything to ourselves, and to have that recognition that, I'm here to support you. Let me know what I can do. I mean, that's just such a wonderful support, as opposed to saying, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you paying me attention? Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum. And I know which one I want. So.
Yeah. For sure.
But it's just one other thing is, like, it can take a process. It can be a process to learn the language around that. It can take going through experiences like that, because we all, your experience is your experience for sure, but there's life stressors and things happen, or we all have different times where we might have mental struggles or physical struggles or just life struggles, and figuring out how to navigate that with a partner. If we aren't necessarily taught those skills growing up.
How to ask for your needs, you mean?
Right. Yeah. And so it's like a lot of times it takes the process of going through that once to be like, let me figure this out. And a lot of times we all fuck it up because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, we have absolutely no teaching in this at all as kids. No. how to talk to each other about the things that are important. It's, wow. You would think somewhere in school that would be addressed, but I don't know. It's just,
right.
I wonder about that too, because it seems like the only solutions that are offered in popular culture are like, oh, you're not getting your needs met, you got to break up, or, well, just stand by your man, kind of thing.
just keep nagging.
just keep going. I don't know how you're going to do it, but just stay true. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you have to, right? That's what you took those vows.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like, it's forever and ever, and you don't get to question it.
If you got married.
If you got married, well, yeah. Or
Mm-hmm.
you're just supposed to power through.
But even if you aren't married, like it's just oftentimes a societal expectation.
Yeah.
I think it's changing. I think it's changing slowly,
Mm-hmm.
but
yeah. Luckily, Emma married somebody who has been fantastic at asking for his needs, so it's been great. She said no.
Yeah, but what about you?
Yeah, well, I don't want to Emma bash today.
No comment.
I would love to hear on your side too, Libby. Like this process for you coming through university, opening up a relationship, figuring out how to do that, because I can't imagine that maybe your school was different than ours, but just full of people who were understanding and know how to navigate polyamory. You're sort of out there swimming in a sea by yourself. How did that go for you?
I was actually really lucky in terms of support. I was living in Montreal at the time, which does have quite a sex positive culture, I would say. And there were things like OkCupid was a really good resource. That's where we met a lot of people. There were poly meetups even nearby to my place. So I did go to those. My partner started dating somebody in the neighborhood even who was like very well versed, and she came into that relationship with a whole like checklist, so are we going to have, PDAs? Are we allowed to talk about her? Like she had a whole interview that she put him through. I was very impressed. It's not my style, but I was very impressed. So it actually wasn't that hard. I remember like one friend seeing me with my other partner and being really weirded out by it, like giving me kind of a dirty look. But other than that, Montreal was a good place to be for that. I didn't feel alone.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love that. Yeah. You just like, that was your experience. Like that's just, it's unfortunately not that common.
To have that much support around you. Yeah.
I mean, it was still hard to talk about with some people. It's certainly not something still that I talk about with everybody, but
yeah,
for sure.
Well, and I'm just curious, like over the course of your life and your different like relationships, it sounds like you've had multiple open relationships in some form.
Yeah.
Like what has it journey been like for you? How have you seen yourself grow in that experience? Which is a big question.
It's pretty huge. It's been a very positive thing overall for me because, like I mentioned earlier, I was very insecure, and being able to find that there are lots of people in the world who want to spend time with me. It's not like I needed to pump myself up about being a desirable woman or anything. It's more about like, oh, this world is full of amazing, interesting people, and I'm so curious about all of them. And actually, a bunch of them want to share that with me. So I feel really lucky.
Yeah. Well, and probably how you share that with different people looks very different, right? Maybe it's music, or maybe it's movies, or maybe it's pick your interest, and maybe the depth at which you go with people is maybe not all the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a shy person, and learning that I need to communicate in all kinds of relationships has been really important. Just, sexual or not, just realizing like, here are the kinds of questions that I need to ask. These are my needs. How can I, make them known?
Can I push on you for a minute? Because I imagine there's a whole bunch of shy people going, I'm too shy to do polyamory. I would love to do polyamory or non-monogamy of some flavor, but I'm too introverted. I'm too shy. How have you? I mean, you've got multiple partners and you're on a podcast doing it. So how have you made it happen?
How did we get here?
Thank God for the internet. I mean, I was really lucky to grow up as the internet was getting mainstream, right? So, I think that's helped a lot of people not feel alone. Gay, lesbian, trans people, certainly they've found their people online. In terms of shyness, like, I really don't think that I have the answer to that. It's just been a lot of years of doing it and realizing what's important to me. And is it so important that I'm willing to talk to somebody about it? And the answer has been yes. So it's just a passion deep from within. And if that feeling is strong enough, then you will push yourself to take those difficult steps. Same thing with music. Like, I'm a shy person, but it's so important to me to express myself that I will get up on that stage,
Yeah, I love that. I think the piece too about technology and the internet is really valid, for people who are shy or introverted. This is something that I know for myself. It's easier for me to send a text, right? And it's easier for me to have a really great in-person conversation if I've laid some groundwork via text with somebody, because I feel a little more confident. I build a little rapport where I'm safe, and then I can go outside of where I felt maybe as safe and take that to a different format. And so I think there's something to that too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, email is a really wonderful tool for me. And I know that there are certain things that I'd rather say in person, but yeah, if I can say, like, hey, I'd like to get together with you and talk about what we're going to do on Friday, or, it can be something simple. And that I guess meta communication is something that I think poly people probably do a little more often than other people. And I like it a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And on your side, Cal, coming into poly officially, the official pollination of you, roughly a decade ago. What?
That's quite the term.
That's a great term.
How have you seen yourself kind of grow in the last decade or so that you've been doing this?
It's a strange thing that I haven't got all the experiences that I think that there are to have, and what I mean by that is the relationships that I still have. I've never actually stopped having a relationship with somebody who in a poly sense. So that's one thing I haven't had experience of. Poly breakup, yeah, which is, it's kind of nice, because, well, I like the people that I date. So those are nice. But I think, like I was saying before, I think for me, that what it has done is it's put a different lens through which I see the world, and I not that I want to be proselytizing on a soapbox or anything, but there are people who do. I get conversations with friends and they're going on and on about A, how miserable they are, or B, how lonely they are, or how they feel threatened about their partners, kind of work colleagues or whatever it happens to be. And I say, well, I have a solution for that. Well, yeah, I know about that, but that's your thing. It's like, but it could be yours,
Right? That's just you, Cal. You're the only one. That's your thing.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of the hardest thing, because I mean, it's hard to talk to people whose minds are so closed about something that seems entirely natural and normal to me. I would like to. I will continue to talk to people I care about, who are going through difficult times that I think there could be easier solutions for them. But, they have to come to the realization on their own, and they may never, and that's fine. But I think, just the way I see the world and relationships in particular now has changed a lot. And I think that's the biggest change for me. Because, as I say, the relationship, it's not like, the way that my relationships are feels entirely normal, but it feels entirely normal. And going back to that story about, when I was young, it's the other part of my life that seems abnormal now. The monogamy and the marriage and the struggling in the marriage and so on. That's the odd part. And the rest of it is normal. So that makes sense.
It does. Yes. But I'm hearing people listen in their car going, so what, you've never had any challenges? It's just been easy street for the two of you. Does jealousy or anything ever come up for either of you?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, speaking, I think time management is a big issue, and making sure that my partners feel that they are not being, diminished or that it's not that, I need equal treatment or anything like that, but just to feel needed and feel as, that there's a strong relationship there still all the time. Every partner has a different level of insecurity about relationships. They've come at it at different ages and so on, and stages. So navigating that, it's not a one size fits all. And definitely there's a lot of times when I have to reassure kind of partners in one sense or another, whether I'm distracted doing something really, really time consuming, and I don't notice that the relationships are beginning to need water and so on. I'll need to make sure that I check on that, and I'm not very good at doing that yet. So that those are things that still have to be managed. It's not just because you're in a polyamorous relationship doesn't mean every problem disappears. In some cases, right, you're magnifying the problems or multiplying problems because you've got many partners to deal with and make sure that everyone's feeling happy and secure and or at least contented and secure in the relationships. So yeah, it's not a panacea.
No. Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's part of the journey, right?
But it's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about for you, Libby?
Yeah. I guess I don't see myself as a very jealous or insecure person. And it's not that I have never felt those things, but I guess worked a lot on managing them. I'm not sure if this is the healthiest way to go about things, but I like to kind of logic the pain away sometimes. I just look at it under a lens and say like, oh, I feel really sad that, Cal is spending so much time on this other project right now. But I can understand why he's doing that, like even if like I wish I were there too, I can see, oh no, but this is important too. I'm like, okay, no, this makes sense that he's doing this, right? So if it makes sense, then it's a little easier for me to digest. Also, just channeling feelings into art helps a lot.
We'll just make a note of this.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I mean, either I can kind of logic the pain away, or I can use it as an opportunity for growth. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it is something that you've got to learn how to do.
Yeah. I as an engineer, and I'm not going to speak for Emma, but also an engineer, I can really relate to logicking that away. Mm-hmm. What really pisses me off is you can't logic somebody else's away, no matter how many times.
Yeah. I try so hard. hard. I'm like, can't you see? I'm doing this because X, Y, Z.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some bullshit.
Doesn't work.
We got to work on that part.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad you understand.
Yeah.
Feelings 101.
Oh, yeah, right? That should be a class.
Yes.
And starting in preschool.
And every year.
And ending
Yes.
when you get your master's degree.
However much
if you
school
ever
go
get there,
to.
yes.
You never progress beyond 101 either.
Yeah.
It's 101 every
It's just
year.
like every time.
You just take it over and over. I'm in remedial communication. Yeah.
Well, because it progresses as you age, too,
Yeah.
as you grow up. It's always 101, right?
Yeah, well, I have to learn this skill as a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 27-year-old.
Oh boy.
All right.
I wanted to ask that, so if the two of you could talk a little bit about your relationship. I know we've kind of talked a little bit about individual and your journeys, but
How did you come together?
yeah, well, through music.
So dramatic.
Through music.
Well, yeah.
Or they could tell us.
But I would love to hear more of that story and more of what your relationship looks like.
Yeah. I mean, yes, through music in the sense that I saw Cal perform with another band and somebody introduced us just on the premise that we're both musicians, basically. Saying hey, I'd like to introduce you because you play music. But then I grew to appreciate your musical talents more, I would say. So the more that I heard him sing and harmonize, the more I was kind of like, wow, we really need to get together musically. It was a real musical pull.
Mm-hmm. And yes, and then Libby started doing some recording in a project that I was sort of producing.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of how it
weird.
went. And I was sitting there listening to her recording, and all the time, in my head, I'm singing harmony and figuring out how the arrangement would be, like where the tuba would come in or whatever it would be. And no tuba. And I couldn't stop from joining in, as it were. And then you sent me an email saying, "Hey, I'd really like to play some music with you."
Yes.
And I was away at the time, and I got back, and it's like, okay, let's try that. So we did that, and we did that for.
Yeah, that was my very bold step.
That was you were amazingly bold. Yeah.
I was slightly in an altered state at the time I sent the email, but I'm really glad that
it's legal up here.
Yeah. We don't judge. It's legal here too.
Not everywhere, but where we live.
And now I guess, so we started playing kind of open mics together and just practicing. And we fought the urge to do anything but music for a while.
Yeah.
I had never dated a musician before. I didn't think it was a good idea, especially a collaborator. It's like a coworker.
Yeah.
What a terrible plan.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. We're like, that's a terrible plan. He's done it lots of times. Said no, it's not really a good idea.
Let's not do this.
Okay. And we had this discussion several times. Let's just keep it to the music.
But guess what? Spoiler alert.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. Yeah. I tried to logic that idea out of my mind, and that didn't work. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you were both feeling that pull on more than just a musical level.
Yeah.
And so how did you decide to make the leap?
I came on to you really hard.
I couldn't resist. My defenses were down, honest.
No, it wasn't like a taking advantage situation, but I definitely put the moves on you.
Yeah, it was a mutual thing, I think, and just a realization that, you know what, I mean, we're fighting this thing that is actually burning. There's a fire here that why fight it?
You're trying to logic the fight, right?
Exactly,
logic yourself. I was like, okay.
And the concern is that the music and the relationship get sort of confused and subsumed or whatever, and it hasn't happened that way. I mean, I think It's not that they're entirely separate by any means, but I think it's actually good because we draw on a kind of an energy between us when we're performing that I think, really helps. I mean, we're singing about things that are our real life, and we can put our own energy into that, and sort of it inflates it with a kind of a sense of realism. So
Yeah,
it's kind of neat. So yeah, I'm kind of glad.
I'm glad too. Obviously, I'm happy, but I also still feel like if we broke up, maybe we could keep the music going.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I guess
it is its own thing.
Pretty good at compartmentalizing things. Not again. I don't think it's in an unhealthy way, but like, I like the fact that I can exist in different situations and, tailor my behavior to that situation. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a matter of denying who I am in any of those cases. It's just, you got to act appropriately for each.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a good actor on stage is the person, is the character. It's not fake. You have to be real. You are living this thing. And in a kind of similar way, we are parts, and we can actually be the best parts, and it becomes who we are. It's being able to compartmentalize that. I think it's an important skill to be able to have. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's something not to just say, well, this is only a thing polyamorous people do, but it is something we hear a lot more. And it is often a thread of, hey, this relationship isn't working in this container. We're not going to end the relationship. We're going to transition it. Maybe now we just are co-parents, or maybe we do it like this or that or the other way. So maybe it is, hey, now we're musicians again together for a while. But who knows? In 5 years, you're like, I don't know. I'm feeling that thing again. Do you want to go back and ebb and flow? And I think it's a beautiful way to go through life and not having so many hard, like, well, we broke up. We can't play music again. We probably got to burn all the CDs we ever made. And MP3s.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I think too, just to touch on like the risk that you two took, right? Because I think that's just something else that you two stared at it for, it sounds like about 2 years, saying, I feel this thing, but I shouldn't. I feel this thing, but I shouldn't. And you finally took the risk. And I think that's amazing. So I'll give you a lot of credit for that.
Well, I think it's a matter of like, do you want to go through life saying what's the worst that can happen or what's the best that can happen, right? So
yeah,
that
is exactly the thought process. Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah. What ifs are a sad thing. If they remain what ifs forever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can never go. You can't go back in time and make something happen that didn't happen, right? And so you might lose out. You could have sat around and argued in your heads for another 2 years and lost out on 2 years of amazing relationship being together. And so, yeah.
The other thing to throw into that ingredient to throw in, of course, was COVID, because that actually dramatically diminished the opportunities that we had to even spend time together doing music, let alone anything else.
Yeah, we got together right before COVID.
Literally right before. So that was hard. And at times, where Libby lives, they had a curfew, and they had, police at the checkpoints to stop kind of people coming in and things like this. So, that was a hard thing to deal with as well. So.
Yeah. And not enough pot in the world to make that feel good.
No. But I did have several aunts who needed eye operations, which was my excuse for giving to the police to come over and kind of visit and play music. So,
and you persevered.
We did. We prevailed.
I'm just curious. I know, Cal, you mentioned you have, I think, 2 other partners. Is that correct right now? Yeah. And then how about for you, Libby?
I also have 2 other partners.
2 others.
Okay. Nice balance.
Yeah.
I have one other question on that. And then I would love to hear about your music, because I know your music is not just music, especially to you two, but I know there are themes and messages in your music that we want to talk about and how you got there. But before that, how do you balance
I was just going to ask that question.
each having 3 partners and playing music and being on podcasts and
Oh, it's
Delicately
busy.
Yeah, it is busy. Yeah. You go.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, no, that's it. It's just busy. That's it. That's my answer.
It is busy. I know a lot of people use Google Calendar. I'm not really there yet. I have a paper calendar in my kitchen. But I guess, again, kind of a compartmentalizing thing. Like, I have a nesting partner, and so that's kind of the main way that we connect. We also have 3 children, my nesting partner and I. So yeah,
Just to add more.
just to
time
add
into the
more, it's
calendar,
like 3 partners, 3 children, 4 chickens, and a cat. That's me. And some other stuff that I do sometimes, but so I often connect with my nesting partner because we live together and we have children and animals. I have another partner. I don't know. He's just kind of like mostly a for fun kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then I've got
And then
Cal,
there's me.
who's like no fun at all,
No
but
fun.
he's really good at music.
Yeah. you got to be good at something, Cal. I hear you.
I'm joking. Your turn.
On that note, I'm no fun at all. Apparently, no. Yeah, time is always a thing. I mean, it's I work part time, and I don't have a nesting partner, but I also have a lot of other musical stuff going on. So that takes a fair bit of managing to try and figure out everything. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. Don't have an answer, but lots of questions.
Yeah.
So,
It sounds like it's just a process of figuring it out as you go.
very much so. Yeah, no system. I do have Google Calendar though.
Yeah, you're better than me.
I also have a flip phone, which is one way.
I don't even have a cell phone.
I love it. Some days I wish. And then if I don't have it on me for 3.5 seconds, I'm like, where'd it go? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
It's just charging. It's
Yes,
just charging
that's
because
right.
it got down to 97%.
Oh my gosh. That's so true. Oh my god.
All right. We would love to hear about your music. Tell us about your music. And for anybody listening, links to everything they're about to say will be in the show notes. But we'd love to hear about the inspiration behind it, the style. How would you two describe your musical collaboration?
I mean, I guess we both come at it from a kind of folky sensibility. Our most recent album is called If You've Given Up on Love, Then Let's Call It Something Else, which I think speaks to the kind of, negotiation and meta-communication that is so necessary in a non-monogamous relationship. It doesn't have to be a love relationship, right? You can have different kinds of relationships. And I don't think I originally set out to make non-monogamous music per se, but of course it comes from that perspective, just as I will write songs from a woman's perspective. I have a feminist perspective as I write, but it's not like, I'm going to write this kind of a song right now.
But I think we set out in this latest release to have like a story arc of a relationship, or relationships that aren't working for whatever reason, and then exploring the idea of different options, polyamory, or just, and then at the end, by the end, the tone is very much more positive and hey, we can do this stuff. So there's an arc to it. Is an album per se, as opposed to a collection of songs.
Yeah.
But it's not a story about Jim and Joe and their relationship together.
No, I didn't actually write the songs in order, saying like, okay, we're going to start with an unhappy relationship song, and then we're going to go through.
It's just the way that kind of songs sort of work out. But there's very, I like exploring the themes. It makes regular audiences sometimes a little uncomfortable.
I love that, but it's not so blatant that they run away screaming. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this sneaky messaging.
It's almost like, wait a minute, are they?
Did they actually
Did
say
they
that?
actually say that? Are they talking about like a foursome? Like what? You know? So no. How can you think of such a thing? You're mine. So we have a bit of fun.
I love the sneaking of like it's in the lyrics, it's in the music. It's not, it's just a different approach that can land for people in a different way than just coming at them in the conversation.
Well, that's it. People will relate to the music in different ways. Somebody might come up afterwards and be like, oh my gosh, you were playing an auto harp. I love auto harps. They're the coolest instrument. My grandma had an auto harp, just
it happens a lot
like that.
Yeah.
Or it could be
always a grandma that had one too.
I know, it makes me feel old. But sometimes it'll be like a kid basically, or a teenager coming up and being like, oh wow, I really had an emotional resonance with that song. I am so happy that you were able to talk about, non-monogamy or that, there's obviously a queer relationship happening here, or like, they'll pick up on the lyrics more and say like, oh, it made me want to cry, or, things like that that are really special. So.
Yeah, I love that. And then in 15 years, it'll be, hey, my grandma was in a foursome. That's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, I had somebody say like, oh, back in the 70s, it was all about orgies. I was like, oh,
good for you.
Great.
I love that. I think it's also super true though that people can hear it in music and it disarms them, right? And I hesitate to go here, but right, like the Pina Colada song, right? It's two people who are literally trying to cheat on each other and wind up with each other, right? And but nobody's like, well, they were horrible people. They were trying to cheat on each other.
It's almost makes horrible things or weird things acceptable by hearing it as a narrative. Where if you came out and told the story or told as your story, people would be, what? Right. But hearing it as a kind of a lyric, it has that sort of magic of self-focusing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, we're excited to send people your way, and we'll put links to where can people find it if they're just going to go search on their own if they don't want to look for our links.
Sure. I guess if you want to listen, then libbyhortop.bandcamp.com is a good place to go, but also libbyhortop.com, or on Facebook, we're Libby Cal.
Got it. Well, links for all of that will be in the show notes, and we're just excited for that.
Yeah. And we've covered a lot of ground today, but is there anything else that either of you would like to share?
I would just say if you are listening and you're not sure that kind of that this is a way to go, that polyamory is for you, then don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try, and if it feels right, then please don't be dissuaded by what mainstream society will tell you.
I love it.
I wanted to say that I really like the name of your podcast, and that normalizing non-monogamy is such a powerful idea, and I aspire to get there and to help that process on its way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And you go.
Well, I was just going to say, thinking about when we came up with the name, it was like we hesitated for a long time because it's so long and it's such a mouthful.
It is.
And but I'm glad we did it. And what were you going to say?
Well, when you emailed us, it was about potentially using your music on our show. And I just wanted to speak to that really quick because we tried one time to change our music. No, we'll never do that again. We got the emails we received. And it was another listener was like, hey, I make really cool music and I'd love I can send you guys new music every month or so and you can change it up. And we're like, well, this is really great. We'll do that. And like, we played it one time and people are like, what happened to your music? And our music isn't even good. People call it's literally like clown music, and it shows up in all sorts of videos. We didn't even know this when we picked it.
No.
For anybody who's still listening, we didn't even know this when we picked it. But it's called Monkeys Chasing Monkeys, or Monkeys Spinning Monkeys.
Yeah.
And it's literally sounds like carnival music. And we picked it just to be cheeky. And we'll change it someday.
And 4.5 years later, we're still using it.
Cannot change
But
it.
what would be cool is actually we could, and we can cut this out if we don't.
No, I'm not changing it.
No.
You can take over emails.
I'm not saying change it, but what if we just put a little excerpt of their music here?
Well, let's do that.
At the end of the episode.
Or even at the beginning.
Why not? We can still keep our intro, outro, but we can still add music.
Well, sure. We'll let you two pick the song and the excerpt and send it to us, and it'll go right here.
Yeah.
Sounds good. That would be lovely.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Love it. Well, thank you both for reaching out, for coming on, for sharing, and we're just excited to get your story out there.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we're back. Thank you so much, Libby and Cal, for the amazing conversation and for the music, too, putting all of the amazing work out there that you do. We will put as discussed in the episode and in the intro, after this outro, there's going to be one of their songs called Free Agents. So stay tuned and listen to that.
Highly recommend it. Beautiful beautiful music, beautiful voices. Yeah.
And then go check out the rest of their music.
Yep. Which links will be in the podcast show notes. All of the places Libby talked about, libbihortop.bandcamp.com, all of the places in the show notes over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Please check it out. Support their work. It's incredible.
It is. Thank you again. And a couple of quick reminders. We will be at the Southwest Love Fest conference April 14th to 16th in Tucson, Arizona. We would love to have you join us. Links to join are in the show notes. And if you use the code Emma, you get a discount and support the show and support Southwest Love Fest. Also, our next virtual meet and greet is coming up February 22nd. So you can go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and sign up there for that.
And one more quick shout out to, well, first of all, anybody who is a community member also gets access to the premium subscription. So they may not have heard this in the intro, which is a huge thank you to everybody who's listening here, who came out to California last week or this past weekend, and joined us for our in-person retreat. It was amazing. We pole danced. We did yoga. We ate a lot. And then we ate some more. We went for a walk in the garden. We went to a beer garden.
Some people went for hikes.
It was a hoot and holler and good time. And so just thank you to everybody who made that one of the most amazing experiences we've ever had.
Yes.
And if you want to be a part of the next one, and if you want to start building those friendships right now, well, the best way to do that is to join the virtual community.
Yes, it is. Good plug, which you can on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, by clicking on the community tab.
Which I think one of the really cool things about this retreat, and I'm just going to go off here for a second and say, the fact that so many of these people had formed friendships for the last months or even years. Some of these people have known each other for years and years and years, talked to each other every month on Q&A calls, or been part of the men's group or the women's group or anything that we've done. And they finally got to meet in person, and it was like lightning.
It was.
It was so cool. So, again, thank you to everybody for being a part of it, and we can't wait to have you, person who's not a member, join us.
Nailed it. Next week, we have a conversation with Kate, who is co-founder of Southwest Love Fest. And
hey, we're going to be there.
So we may have mentioned that just a couple minutes ago. But we're going to be there April 14th through 16th. But next week, join us for Kate's story. It's amazing. So we're excited to bring that to you then.
We'll see you then.
Yeah. Ciao. And before that,
what?
Listen to the next song by Libby and Cal.
Oh, that's right. Here goes the song.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Do you think they've ever had an opening act that is two rambling podcasters? I hope not.
You mean Libby and Cal?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
maybe we'll
not.
tour with them, and they'll be like, and now Emma and Finn are going to come on stage and ramble at you incoherently for some number of minutes. and then we're going to come out and sound amazing.
I don't think it's been incoherent, but it's not going to be as amazing as this song.
Well, let's find out.
Okay, bye everyone. Again, thanks for listening.
Never mind the way the colors dance and shimmer. You know it's only oil in a puddle. Never mind the beauty of everything around you. You know it only gets you into trouble. And I can't say I'll always be this way. And I don't need assurance that you'll stay. 'Cause we are free agents who know what we want. We are happy wanderers who follow our hearts. Lately, I prefer the lack of clarity to the feeling of obligation. Lately, I prefer the stable variety of several sure things. And I can't say I'll always be this way. And I don't need assurance that you'll stay. 'Cause we are free agents who know what we want. We are happy wanderers who follow our hearts. But it's not all about me, and it's not all about you. We gotta make concessions for the greater good. You might think I'm insensitive to put my feelings first, but ignoring them is worse. Yeah, ignoring them is worse. I